On July 14, 1994, 22-year-old Michael Brennan shouldered his forest green Kelty backpack for what should have been a routine 3-day solo trek through Washington's Mount Baker-Snoqualmie National Forest. He left behind a Polaroid camera, still loaded with film, a girlfriend's promise ring he'd been carrying for 2 weeks, and a handwritten note on his kitchen table that simply read, "Back Sunday. Love you all." He was never seen again. Michael stood 5'10" with sandy brown hair that his mother, Patricia, always said needed cutting. That Thursday morning, he wore his lucky Seattle Mariners cap backwards, as always, faded Levi's with a tear in the left knee from a previous climbing mishap, and the red flannel shirt his girlfriend Sarah had given him for his birthday just 3 weeks earlier. His hiking boots, Basque Sundonors, were perfectly broken in from countless weekend adventures. He moved through the world with the easy confidence of someone who'd grown up in these mountains, someone who knew every trail marker, every creek crossing, every place where cell phones lost signal, which in 1994 meant everywhere beyond the parking lot. Michael wasn't just another weekend warrior heading into the wilderness. He'd been hiking these trails since he was 7, when his father first taught him to read topographic maps by candlelight in a 2-person tent. By high school, he was leading the outdoor club on overnight expeditions. After graduating from University of Washington with a degree in forestry, he'd spent 2 summers working as a backcountry ranger, teaching city folks how to hang bear bags and filter water from alpine streams. His colleagues at REI, where he worked part-time selling camping gear, called him Encyclopedia Mike, for his ability to recall every trail condition report from the past 5 years. The trip held special significance. Michael had been planning to propose to Sarah at Cascade Pass, the same overlook where they'd shared their first kiss 2 years earlier during a sunrise hike. The engagement ring, his grandmother's Art Deco diamond set in white gold, was wrapped in a wool sock tucked deep in his pack between his first aid kit and emergency shelter. He'd shown it to his best friend, David, the night before, practicing his proposal speech while they shared beers on David's apartment balcony. "I want it to be perfect," Michael had said, turning the ring box over in his hands. "She deserves perfect." His mother would later tell investigators that Michael had been unusually affectionate that morning. He'd stopped by his parents' house in Bellingham at 6 a.m., earlier than planned, to borrow his father's water filter his own had cracked the previous weekend. Patricia was making coffee when he appeared in the kitchen doorway, backpack already loaded in his truck. He hugged her longer than usual, the kind of embrace that made her pause and ask if everything was all right. "Everything's great, Mom," he'd said, stealing a piece of toast from her plate. "I just wanted to see you before I left." She noticed he'd packed his Walkman, unusual for him, as he preferred the forest sounds, along with 3 mixtapes Sarah had made him. The labels read, "Happy Trails," "For When You Miss Me," and "Coming Home." At 7:15 a.m., Michael stopped at the Glacier Peak gas station, where security cameras captured him buying beef jerky, 2 Snickers bars, a roll of duct tape, and 4 bottles of Gatorade, lemon lime, his favorite. The clerk, Nancy Hutchins, remembered him clearly because he'd helped her carry in a delivery of propane tanks while waiting for his truck's gas tank to fill. "Such a sweet young man," she would later tell reporters. He was whistling that Counting Crows song, the one that was always on the radio. He seemed so happy. The last confirmed sighting of Michael Brennan alive was at 8:47 a.m. at the White Chuck Trailhead. Park volunteer Robert Chen was cleaning the information board when Michael's blue 1987 Toyota pickup pulled into the gravel parking area. They chatted briefly about trail conditions. Recent rain had made some creek crossings tricky, and Michael signed the trail register with his characteristic flourish. M. Brennan, 3 days, Cascade Pass, and beyond. Robert watched him double-check his pack straps, lock his truck, and hide the spare key in its usual spot under the rear bumper. The morning mist was just beginning to lift from the Douglas firs as Michael headed up the trail, his red flannel shirt visible between the trees until he rounded the first switchback and vanished into the green cathedral of the forest. Sarah first sensed something was wrong on Sunday evening. Michael was supposed to call her by 6 p.m., their standing agreement whenever he hiked alone. By 6:30, she was pacing her Queen Anne apartment, telling herself he'd probably just hit traffic, coming back from the mountains. By 7, she'd called his apartment twice, leaving increasingly worried messages on his answering machine. At 7:45, she called his parents. Patricia Brennan would later describe the next 12 hours as a slow-motion nightmare. First came the calls to hospitals along Highway 20, each negative response a mixture of relief and growing dread. Then the call to David, who drove to the trailhead at 11 p.m., finding Michael's truck exactly where it should be, covered in 3 days' worth of pine needles and morning dew. The spare key was still under the bumper, inside the truck bed. Michael's emergency road kit, jumper cables, and a cooler with 2 celebratory beers he'd planned to drink with Sarah after his successful proposal. By Monday morning, the search was in full motion. The Snohomish County Search and Rescue deployed 2 ground teams and requested helicopter support from Naval Air Station Whidbey Island. The command post, established in the White Chuck parking area, became a hive of controlled chaos. Maps covered folding tables. Radio chatter filled the air. Patricia stood silent at the edge of it all, clutching the mariner's cap Michael had left on his childhood bedroom dresser, his backup, for when his lucky one got too dirty. The search dogs picked up Michael's scent immediately, following it up the White Chuck Trail for nearly 4 miles. Then, at a seemingly unremarkable spot where the trail crossed a small creek, the dogs simply stopped. They circled, whined, and refused to go further. Handler Janet Morrison had worked with her German Shepherd Yukon for 8 years. "I've never seen him act like that," she told investigators. It was like Michael's scent just ended. Not gradually, like he went into water, just stopped, like he vanished into thin air. The first significant discovery came on day 3 of the search. Volunteer hiker Marcus Webb, searching off-trail in a grid pattern, found Michael's campsite a 1/4 mile from where the dogs lost the scent. The scene defied explanation. Michael's tent, a green North Face VE-24, was pitched perfectly on a level spot he'd cleared of rocks and branches. Inside, his sleeping bag was unrolled and laid out neatly. His pack leaned against a tree, rain cover attached, everything organized exactly as he'd taught in his wilderness workshops. His camp stove sat on a flat rock beside a pot containing the remnants of freeze-dried beef stroganoff, half-eaten, spoon still in the pot, as if he'd simply stepped away mid-meal and never returned. The inventory of Michael's belongings raised more questions than answers. His water bottles, full, his headlamp, hanging from a perfect Prusik knot on the tent's gear loft, batteries working. His journal, discovered in the top pocket of his pack, ended mid-sentence on July 15th. Beautiful sunset through the trees. Cascade Pass tomorrow. Can't wait to. The pen was still clipped to the page. Search coordinator Captain James Rodriguez had been doing this work for 15 years. Standing in Michael's abandoned camp, he told the gathered volunteers, "In all my time, I've never seen anything quite like this. People don't just leave everything, especially experienced hikers." Something made him leave this camp in a hurry, without taking anything. But what? Over the next 2 weeks, over 200 volunteers combed every trail, drainage, and cliff band within a 10-mile radius. Navy helicopters flew infrared scanning patterns. Cave rescue specialists explored every known cavern and mine shaft in the area. Psychics called in with visions. Michael's college friends organized their own searches, bushwhacking through areas the official teams had already cleared, refusing to believe they hadn't missed something. The theories multiplied with each passing day. Animal attacks seemed unlikely. No blood, no torn equipment, no signs of struggle. Bears and cougars don't make people vanish without a trace. Accident or fall. Possible, but Michael knew these trails intimately, and the weather had been perfect. Clear skies, temperatures in the 70s, no wind. Foul play. His wallet was still in his pack with $147 in cash and 3 credit cards. The engagement ring remained wrapped in its sock, untouched. The truck keys were in his pocket, or would have been if they'd found his pockets, or him. On July 30th, after 17 days of searching, the active rescue operation was scaled back. "We're not giving up," Captain Rodriguez told the press, Patricia Brennan standing silent beside him. "We're moving to limited, continuous search mode. We'll keep looking." But he didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. Michael Brennan had vanished into the Mount Baker-Snoqualmie National Forest, leaving behind everything except himself. The case went cold. 12 years passed like seasons in the Pacific Northwest, rain to sun to rain again. Patricia Brennan kept Michael's room exactly as he'd left it, his forestry textbooks still bookmarked, his RAI uniform still hanging in the closet. Every July 14th, she and Sarah, who never did receive that proposal, would drive to the White Chuck trailhead and leave flowers where Michael's truck had been parked. Sarah eventually married, moved to Portland, had 2 children, but she still wore the promise ring Michael had given her on a chain around her neck, hidden beneath her clothing like a secret she shared with no one. The forest reclaimed the trails Michael had loved. New growth filled in old paths. Storm-fallen trees created fresh obstacles. Younger hikers passed the same views, unaware that these mountains held an unresolved mystery. Online forums occasionally discussed the Brennan disappearance, grouped with other Pacific Northwest mysteries. Some claimed to feel a presence near Cascade Pass. Others reported equipment malfunctions in the area where the search dogs had lost Michael's scent. The Rational explained it as confirmation bias, folklore building upon tragedy. But locals noticed things. Experienced hikers would detour around that section of trail, unable to explain why it made them uncomfortable. David, Michael's best friend, attempted the Cascade Pass Trail 5 times over those 12 years. He never made it to the overlook. "Something always went wrong," he told a documentary filmmaker in 2003. "Weather would turn. I'd get unexplainably sick. Once, my compass just started spinning. I know it sounds crazy, but it felt like the mountain didn't want me there." The Forest Service reported an unusual number of abandoned camps in that area, tents left standing, equipment scattered, as if hikers had fled in unexplained panic. Nothing violent, nothing criminal, just a persistent pattern of people leaving the area faster than they'd planned. Rangers started calling it the Brennan effect, though never in official reports. Then on September 3, 2006, everything changed. Marcus and Jennifer Huang, tech workers from Seattle, were hiking the White Chuck Trail, following the same route Michael had taken 12 years earlier. They deviated from the main trail to photograph a particularly impressive cedar grove when Jennifer's foot caught on something buried beneath years of pine needles and moss. What she'd tripped over was a strap, black nylon, partially decomposed, but still strong enough to resist her pull. Marcus began clearing away the forest debris, revealing what would reignite the cold case and chill investigators to their core. It was a camera bag, waterproof, military grade, definitely not standard hiking equipment. Inside, wrapped in what appeared to be a garbage bag, and sealed with the same duct tape Michael had bought at the gas station, was a Sony Handycam, the kind popular with outdoor enthusiasts in the mid-1990s. The serial number, still visible despite years of exposure, would later be traced to a purchase made at the same REI where Michael had worked. The buyer, Michael Brennan, 2 weeks before his disappearance. The Snohomish County Sheriff's Department immediately sent the camera to the FBI's forensic laboratory in Quantico. The device had suffered significant moisture damage, its plastic casing warped and cracked. The tape inside, a high-8 cassette, was partially degraded, the magnetic coating flaking in places. FBI technician Dr. Amanda Chen spent 3 weeks carefully rehabilitating the tape using experimental restoration techniques developed for recovering data from the Space Shuttle Columbia disaster. On September 28, 2006, Dr. Chen successfully recovered 14 minutes and 37 seconds of footage. The video began normally enough. Michael's face filled the frame, grinning as he adjusted the camera, mounted on what appeared to be a makeshift tripod of stacked rocks. The date stamp read July 15, 1994, 7:23 p.m. Golden hour light filtered through the trees behind him. Day 2, he said to the camera. Tomorrow's the big day, Sarah, if you're watching this. He held up the ring box, opened it to show the diamond catching the light. This is actually happening, baby. The next several minutes showed Michael cooking dinner, the same beef stroganoff found half-eaten in his abandoned camp. He narrated his cooking process with exaggerated chef commentary, occasionally laughing at his own jokes. Normal, peaceful, the Michael his family remembered. At 8:47 p.m., according to the timestamp, the video changed. Michael was no longer performing for the camera. He sat close to the lens, whispering, "I've been hearing things for the last hour, footsteps, but wrong somehow. Too heavy, but too quiet." He glanced over his shoulder. There's someone out there, or something. His face was pale, sweat visible, despite the cooling evening temperature. The camera shifted to night vision mode at 9:15 p.m. Michael had moved it inside his tent, the green fabric creating an eerie backdrop. For 3 minutes, there was only the sound of his breathing and the normal forest ambience, wind through branches, distant water. Then, at 9:18, a sound that made investigators replay the footage dozens of times. Footsteps, definitely bipedal, circling the tent, but the rhythm was wrong. Too long between steps, as if whatever was walking was considerably larger than a human, having to move slowly to stay quiet. Michael's whispered narration. "It's been walking around my tent for 20 minutes. It stops when I move." The camera shook as his hands trembled. "I'm going to look." The tent zipper was impossibly loud in the silence. The camera, still in night vision, showed only darkness beyond the tent opening. Then, approximately 30 feet away, 2 points of light, eyeshine, reflecting the camera's infrared illuminator. The eyes were at least 7 feet off the ground. Michael's breathing accelerated. The eyes didn't move for 43 seconds, neither did anything. Then, Michael whispered something that chilled everyone who heard it. "It's not looking at me, it's looking at the camera." The eyes blinked out, not like they turned away, but like they simply ceased reflecting light, despite not moving. The footsteps resumed, faster now, still with that strange, syncopated rhythm. They circled the tent once, twice, then stopped directly behind where Michael was filming. The last 90 seconds of footage showed Michael hastily packing. His hands moved in and out of frame, grabbing seemingly random items. The engagement ring box fell, diamonds scattering across the tent floor. He didn't stop to collect them. At 10:34 p.m., the camera recorded him saying, "I'm sorry, Sarah. I'm so sorry. I have to." The footage ended mid-word. Not like the tape ran out or the battery died. FBI analysis showed the recording was deliberately stopped. The record button had been pressed, by whom remained unknown. The camera's discovery location, over a mile from Michael's abandoned campsite and buried beneath 12 years of forest growth, suggested it had been placed there deliberately, but the real mystery was the tape itself. Analysis showed it had been rewound and partially recorded over, not with new footage, but with static, deliberate, targeted static that obscured 6 minutes of footage between Michael packing and the recording ending. Someone, or something, had edited the tape before sealing it in the bag. Patricia Brennan watched the footage once. Only once. "That's not how my son sounded when he was scared," she told investigators. "That's how he sounded when he was trying not to be scared. When he was protecting someone. But protecting whom? He was alone." The FBI enhanced the audio, isolating sounds beneath Michael's whispers and the footsteps. They found something else. Throughout the recording, at a frequency just below normal human hearing, was a rhythmic pulse, not mechanical, not electronic, biological, like breathing, but wrong, too slow, too deep. Dr. Chen's report noted the acoustic signature suggests a lung capacity approximately 3 times that of an adult human. The investigation exploded back to life. The area where the camera was found was excavated. Ground-penetrating radar revealed numerous metallic objects scattered across a quarter-mile area, all buried at similar depths. Over 3 weeks, investigators recovered Michael's Walkman, destroyed beyond recognition, 3 tent stakes, bent at impossible angles, a compass, its needle pointing southwest, no matter which direction it was turned, and Sarah's mixtapes, the plastic melted and reformed into shapes that hurt to look at directly. They never found Michael's body. They never found his clothes, his boots, his lucky mariner's cap. They never found the engagement ring that had scattered across his tent floor. But they found one more thing, the discovery that ensured this case would never truly close. In October 2006, a cave system was discovered 800 feet above Michael's campsite. It had been hidden by a landslide that geological surveys suggested occurred sometime in late July 1994. Inside the cave, Forest Service spelunkers found something that defied explanation, scratched into the rock. In what forensic analysis confirmed was Michael's handwriting, was a message: "It wants the camera. Don't let it have the camera. Don't let it show others. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Tell Sarah." The message ended there, not like he was interrupted. The last dash continued for 18 inches across the rock face, growing fainter, as if the writer was being pulled away while still trying to write. Dating techniques suggested the scratches were made approximately 12 years ago, but the cave had been sealed since 1994. How had Michael gotten inside? Why was the camera buried a mile away if it wanted it? What was on those 6 minutes of erased footage? And most unsettling, who or what had the presence of mind to edit the tape, removing specific content while leaving evidence of its tampering? The Mount Baker-Snoqualmie National Forest spans over 1.7 million acres. Somewhere in that vastness, the answers to Michael Brennan's disappearance remain hidden. The FBI officially maintains an open investigation. The Forest Service has documented 43 similar equipment discoveries in the area since 2006, cameras, phones, GPS devices, all buried, all partially erased, all containing fragments of footage showing eyeshine at impossible heights and footsteps with wrong rhythms. Sarah visits less frequently now, her children asking why they drive so far to leave flowers in a parking lot. Patricia Brennan passed away in 2019, keeping her son's room preserved until the end. David finally made it to Cascade Pass in 2020, leaving a mariner's cap at the overlook where Michael had planned to propose. He reported feeling watched the entire time, though he was alone on the trail. The White Chuck Trail remains popular with hikers. Most don't know the story. Those who do tend to hike quickly through the area where the search dogs lost Michael's scent. Rangers tell visitors it's one of the most beautiful sections of the trail, but they say it quietly, and they never camp there themselves. Last month, a hiker posted a photo on Instagram taken near Cascade Pass. In the background, barely visible between the trees, appears to be a figure in a red flannel shirt. The hiker swears no one else was on the trail that day. The shirt looks exactly like the one Sarah had given Michael for his 22nd birthday, the one he was wearing when he disappeared. The camera, discovered in 2006, sits in an FBI evidence locker in Seattle. Officially, the case remains under investigation. Unofficially, investigators have noted that the tape continues to degrade in storage, but not uniformly. The 6 minutes of static grow clearer each year, as if something is slowly revealing itself. Dr. Chen, now retired, recently admitted, "We stopped trying to enhance that section in 2008. We could see shapes beginning to form in the static. Management decided some things are better left unknown." Michael's truck was eventually returned to his family and sold. The new owner reported finding a note tucked deep beneath the driver's seat, written in handwriting that looked like Michael's but shaky, desperate. "It learns from watching. Don't record it. Don't look for me, I'm keeping it here. I'm keeping you safe." The note was dated July 16, 1994. 2 days after Michael had disappeared, the Mount Baker-Snoqualmie National Forest is vast, indifferent, and keeps its secrets well. It holds the bones of the lost, the equipment of the missing, and perhaps something else. Something that walks on two legs, but isn't human. Something that understands cameras and recordings. Something that might still be out there. 30 years later, leaving half-eaten meals and perfectly pitched tents, collecting the technology we use to document our journeys into its domain. Michael Brennan loved these mountains. Perhaps he still does. Perhaps he never left. Perhaps that's him in the photographs. Forever 22. Forever wearing that red flannel shirt. Forever walking the trails he knew by heart. Keeping something in the forest that wants out, that wants to be seen, that wants to learn what lies beyond the tree line. They never found his body. They never will. Some mysteries aren't meant to be solved. They're meant to be warnings. And if you hike the White Chuck Trail and your compass starts spinning, if you hear footsteps with the wrong rhythm, if you see eyes shine at impossible heights, don't record it. Don't look for answers. Just run. The forest keeps its own.